Welcome to the GCN Tech Clinic, where I try and solve your bike-related problems. So if you've got one, leave it for me down there in the comments section below, or on all forms of social media using the hashtag AskGCNTech. Right, let's crack on with the first question, and this week we've got some absolute belters as usual. First one then is from Mark Cowan, who says, tech question, when storing bikes for longer periods of time, such as over winter, is it best to set gears to a smallest sprocket and chainring to reduce tension on the springs, or doesn't it really matter? Right, Mark, there will be people out there right now saying, no, it does not matter whatsoever, just leave it in the exact same gear. And I guess that's correct if you're using electronic gears, for instance, because they don't have the springs in them like a traditional cabled setup would. But the best mechanic that I have ever worked with, way back in the earliest part of my career in the cycling industry, always said to me when I used to arrive to work on my bike, put your bike in the smallest cog at the back and the smallest one at the front. And I used to commute actually on a mountain bike. Don't know why. We'll keep that between us lot. Anyway, I used to always do that because he said to me, yeah, those springs inside, they are going to stretch over time, and depending on how long you leave the bike for, I guess it could affect the actual snappiness, if you like, or the crispness of a gear shift. So I do that now after every single ride. When I ride to work now, I put my bikes straight into the small chainring and the smallest sprocket on the rear, even though they have electronic gears on them. It's just sort of conditioned in my way of thinking. So I'd always recommend it. Why not? It's not going to do any harm after all. All right, next up, we've got a question from Yasser Alarinthi. I've probably got that one totally wrong. I do apologise, but nonetheless, I will get the question right, I hope. Hi, John and GCN people. I love the show so much, I even have never missed one since I started watching 2 years ago. That's really cool. I have problems though. I have an Ultegra crank and a 10-speed cassette. Also Ultegra is the cassette, and a 10-speed Shimano chain that is not Ultegra. Can't see a name on it, but it's 10-speed. Biggest problem though is that Yasser fitted an Ultegra rear derailleur, the R8000, that's 11-speed, because they got it from a friend from the US because they don't have good access to road bike parts where they live. However, Yasser fitted it, doesn't work perfectly in the biggest cassette sprockets, probably the 28, something like that. And basically, what's going on? I've got a noisy chain. The chain logo is on the inside of the drivetrain. Right. First up, so I wouldn't worry too much about the chain or anything like that here, because I think your problem is your R8000 rear mech that your friends sorted you out because it's difficult to get hold of bike parts is for 11-speed. Your shifters are for 10-speed. Now, the two things are going to work all right, I guess you could say, for some of the gear changes, but as you go up or down through the gears, eventually the extremities of where the indexing lies, because remember, using a 10-speed shifter with 11-speed rear mech, they are not ideal for one another, so that's why you're unable to get into it. The problem is, basically, you need to get yourself either some 11-speed shifters or a 10-speed mech, and of course if you go to 11-speed, then you are going to need to get an 11-speed chain and everything, but try and get yourself a 10-speed rear mech. I know it's not ideal because you've just got that 11-speed one, but I'm afraid that's where the problem lies. All right, now we've got Juan Pablo Camacho, who says, hi John, sometimes when I adjust a wheel hub and it has no play after the bike is ridden, it comes back. Any ideas why this happens? Right, sounds to me like maybe the locking or the lock nuts, or maybe the axle ends on your axle, you haven't done up quite correctly, and it's coming a little bit loose. Sometimes as well, they could have a seal inside of them or somewhere inside of the hub, and you fitted that in reverse. Now they look very similar, but sometimes you have a slight sort of indentation on them. Sadly, I don't have anything around because these things aren't necessarily that common. You haven't said exactly what wheel is on there. Failing that, it could be possibly inside of the actual freehub body itself where the movement is coming from. Maybe there's a seal inside of there, or a washer, or even the bearings inside of that is actually coming loose, and it's not the wheel, hence why you can't feel it when the wheel is out of the frame. Right, next up we've got Scott Bayvell, who has a question regarding a squeaking noise coming from either the pedal, crank, chainrings, or somewhere. Right, so it's basically a squeak coming from the bike, and cannot seem to place the finger on where exactly the sound is coming from. They clean out the bottom bracket, clean the chainrings, greased the Shimano 4 bolts on the chainrings, cleaned and greased the pedals, and done everything to mitigate this irritating sound, but cannot seem to find it. Scott uses speed play pedals, and the only conclusion is that the pedal platforms have worn down, and now the speed play cleats are ever so slightly rubbing in the spindle. Does this sound correct? Thank you so much. Right, firstly, you've done everything I would suggest, but something I reckon it's probably not. I can't see you actually wearing down the metal plate on top of those Speedplay pedals, because they're either stainless steel or titanium. And if anything, the actual plate that goes onto your 3-bolt shoe and then the 4-bolt Speedplay goes onto, that is going to wear away first. Even if you've got the stainless steel plates from Speedplay fitted underneath, they dent before the pedals do. Trust me, I've used Speedplay for donkey's years. I once experimented actually with getting some titanium sheet and trying to put that in there. All went horribly wrong, broke a tool. Doesn't matter. But what it could well be then instead is if you remove the end cap of that Speedplay pedal. Inside of there's a little Torx screw. I think it's a 15 or a 20. It's held in place with some Loctite. Now, what Speedplay recommend to do here is to warm up the tool, put it into the actual socket, the head socket of that bolt. And what that does then is it melts the thread lock on that screw, which holds the pedal body onto the axle. Then you can undo it. Anyway, when you undo that and take it off, don't have to worry, it's needle roller bearings inside of the pedals. There's a little black washer, so a little O-ring, and that maybe is somehow grabbing and giving you that little squeaking noise. So you can just take it off, give it a little bit of grease, put the pedal body on, reinsert the little bolt there that holds the pedal body onto the axle. There is really clear instructions on the Speedplay website. I could have just told you that, but I quite like to remember how to do all these things. So maybe it's that little rubber washer. Other than that, sounds silly, check your pulley wheels, because you have little rubber seals as well that go around those, and sometimes when you're riding along you get this very faint little squeaking noise, and what it is, it's just one of those is catching ever so slightly. Not every single rotation, it's just every now and then, just randomly is catching in place. Have a look at that. The only other thing I could think of is maybe you've got a cracked plate on your chain, and that's just giving a little squeaking noise somehow. It's just reverberating throughout the frame or something. I don't know, but I'll check your chain too just to make sure that's in good condition. Hopefully we're going to get to the end of this squeaky problem. Next up is Tran Luang, who says, how can I get rid of the black greasy chain? Is it because of the lube I use? It could be because of the lube you use, or maybe the fact you're applying so much on there. So always use the correct lube for the correct conditions. And firstly, go ahead, clean off your drivetrain totally, right? So the cassette, the sprockets, the chain rings, everything, pulley wheels, and then apply the chain lube only to the rollers of the chain. Doesn't need to go anywhere else. You don't need to be like my old teacher when they were wiping down the chalkboard and going crazy with it. You just want to apply it very precise to each and every roller, and then you will have a nice clean chain. Right, penultimate one now is in from Cesar Saura Silva, who says, hello John, I'd like to pose you a question. My bike has hydraulic disc brakes, and since a few weeks ago, each time I use the front brake, after I release the lever, it keeps rubbing for 10 to 20 seconds. It seems like it has difficulty opening the pads. Could you explain what might be the problem and the solution? Right, I reckon it's your piston area, it needs cleaning. So the first port of call, easiest thing you can do is clean them. Now you could do it with soapy water, everything like that, but also the easiest thing is probably just get yourself some disc brake cleaner in an aerosol can, blast it in there, because the force of the air and everything pushing out that potion, if you like, it really does a great job of clearing away any grime away from there and doesn't harm any components, nothing like that, so you're nice and cool. See how that works? Failing that, it could well be you need to bleed the system because you've got some air inside of it, and essentially it's not allowing the fluid to move and do its job quite as effectively as it should do. Right, and the final question this week comes in from Eugene Sen, who says, will a 10-speed cassette fit on a 9-speed freehub? Yeah, from memory, they will all fit onto a 9-speed freehub. I don't think I've ever come across one that it wouldn't. But before you put that 10-speed cassette on, you actually have a very thin washer that generally always comes with the 10-speed cassettes. You put that onto the cassette body first, or the freehub body, then you put the cassette on, torque it up, you're good to go. Let me know exactly how you get on with that one out there. Don't let anyone fool you. There are a few freehub bodies out there that are 10-speed, and they were only compatible with certain 10-speed cassettes, but we're not going down that can of worms today. Oh no. There we are, another tech clinic in the bag. And like I said at the start, if you've got yourself a tech problem, leave it for me down there in the comment section below, and I will try and answer it in a forthcoming episode. Don't forget, check out the GCN shop at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com, and why not share this video with your friends too. And now for 2 more great videos, click just down here and just down here. Oh, don't forget to click the bell.